The Thing in the Closet by D.A. Schneider. Beatrice Scuttlebum jumped at the sound of the doorbell. She had been sipping a cup of tea and listening to the eerie, groaning sound coming from the hall closet. The doorbell startled her out of her trance, and she stood in a hurry to answer the caller.
"Good day, madam,"
the man said as she swung the door open and a flurry of snowflakes blew in around him. He was a thin man with dirty, stringy hair that hung on his shoulders, and his nose was so big it nearly drew all her attention away from the rash of acne on his cheeks.
"You called for a repairman?"
"Oh, yes, of course. Please do come in. That was incredibly fast. I only phoned a moment ago."
"Well, we aim to please."
"Oh, well, your prompt response is greatly appreciated."
"Awful evening outside,"
the man said.
"Indeed.
Beatrice returned.
Quite the winter storm. Looks to be a white Christmas, eh?"
Philip Harding introduced himself as he stepped inside and handed the woman his card.
"I'm assuming it's your furnace you're having trouble with."
"Well, I'm afraid I don't know much about such things. I believe it to be the furnace, although I can't say for sure. Though it certainly is cold in here."
"What seems to be the problem?"
"Oh, there's this awful groaning sound coming from the broom closet, which holds the furnace and water heater. But to be honest, I've been afraid to even open the door and look. It's a bloody frightening sound."
Just then, Philip heard the sound himself. A low rumble that was nearly a growl.
"I see what you mean. Let me take a look and see if I can narrow it down."
"Please do."
Beatrice watched the repairman move to the closet and open the door. He tried the chain light that hung from the ceiling, but the bulb did nothing but fizzle, leaving the closet dark with shadows. The repairman pulled a large flashlight from his belt and twisted the top, then disappeared further into the closet. The minutes drew out, and Beatrice couldn't account for the strange sense of foreboding she felt about the closet and the strange noise that came from within. In her mind's eye, she could picture something horrible happening to the repairman as he looked around in there. She expected any moment to hear him scream in pain. Then he appeared again, stepping out of the closet and into the living room, and Beatrice let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. He shut the door again and turned to her with a worried look on his face.
"What is it?"
Beatrice asked.
"Perhaps we should sit down,"
Philip said. Beatrice hesitated but complied. She sat down at her kitchen table, and the repairman pulled a chair around to sit in front of her. He took both of her hands in his, and Beatrice suddenly felt sure he would tell her something horrible. He had found a dead body in the wall, or a snake the size of a double-decker bus. Philip Harding looked her in the eye and said,
"What if I told you there was a man in your closet?"
Beatrice was taken aback.
"A man?"
"Yes, though I suppose not an ordinary man like me, more of a creature."
"What?"
Her voice was a croaked whisper.
"What if I told you this creature in your closet could unhinge its jaw and swallow a person whole?"
Beatrice felt an icy fear rise in her chest, threatening to explode from her throat in a maddening scream. She tried to speak, but couldn't form the words and had no idea what she'd say if she could.
"It's alright though,"
the repairman was saying.
"As it happens, I dabble in the supernatural a little, and I've seen this kind of thing before. Here, I have another card."
The repairman searched his jacket pockets and produced a card with a shining pentagram printed on front.
"What is it?"
the woman croaked, giving the card little attention.
"Not sure exactly. Could be a demon, or a ghost, or a ghoul, incubus, goblin, zombie, vampire, bogeyman, warlock, god, ancient deity, any number of things. Could even be an entirely new species. The important thing is, I know how to get rid of it."
"You do?"
"Indeed, though it is a rather taxing ritual. Physically, that is to say. I'm afraid I'd have to charge you quite a large sum of money."
"How much?"
"I could do it for, say, £50,000.
Beatrice looked down at her hands clasped in her lap, but said nothing. Philip leaned forward with concern clear on his face.
"I know this is difficult to believe. I suppose, in the interest of your own safety, visual evidence will be needed."
Beatrice looked up at the man, fearing she already knew the answer to her next question.
"What do you mean?"
"He's there now, on the other side of that door. And he's hungry. He will come out, but don't be afraid. I can put him back."
With that, the repairman stood and walked toward the closet. He placed one hand on the doorknob and turned back to the woman.
"Prepare yourself."
Philip opened the door, and the beast crept out. Beatrice felt a scream catch in her throat, as if she were caught in a dream, and no matter how badly she wanted to scream to wake up, she just couldn't manage. The thing had skin the color of ash, and though it walked on its hind legs, it used its long, muscular arms for support like a gorilla. Its hair was black and seemed to flow around its large head as if it were caught underwater. Beneath its large brow, there glowed two red eyes, as if the fire of hell fueled its fury. With a sickening click, the jaw unhinged and it swung low to reveal several rows of crooked, brown teeth. It let out a screech, and Beatrice felt as if the sound would drive her to madness. The repairman shouted several words in a strange language, and the monster retreated slowly into the closet. Philip shut the door and leaned against it a moment, breathing heavily. Then he turned to Beatrice.
"I'll get my checkbook."
With the check tucked safely inside of his jacket, Philip performed the ritual. It took nearly an hour and was filled with strange hand gestures and more of the odd language he had spoken before. In the end, he opened the door and showed Beatrice that the creature was gone, and she no longer had that feeling of doom that she experienced before. She thanked him profusely and claimed it was money well spent. Then she saw him to the door, and they said their goodbyes. Philip turned with a smile on his face and walked down the snow-covered drive, zipping his jacket against the dropping temperature and chilled breeze. It felt good to do nice things for people. There was movement behind him on the darkened path. He turned, but saw nothing. On he walked, lost in thought, until a scuffing sound had him turning again. This time, he did find something behind him. The thing from the closet unhinged its jaw and growled at the repairman. Philip placed his hands on his hips.
Laid it on kinda thick, didn't you?
The creature's head lolled from side to side.
I told you to keep it subtle. The old gal nearly had a heart attack.
This time the creature shrugged as if to say sorry.
Well, come on then. There are other rich old dames to extort money from.
The repairman walked on with his creature trailing behind, off to find another mark. Retirement was so close, he could practically smell the salt of the sea and feel a sandy beach between his toes. Next Christmas will be spent in paradise.